Welcome back to the garage and part 2 of the Gates of Sorrow. After the beachhead was established at the end of part 1, the Death Guard took their time to muster new forces, cement that beachhead and look to press on further into the city, whilst the ghosts fell back, again rearmed, resupplied, and get themselves established within the city perimeters to try and prevent the Death Guard from going any further deeper into Kalos 9. So here's just under 2,000 points worth of the Ghosts of the Forge, led today by Captain Petra Lachlan, who has the enhancement, the Honour Vehement. We did some rolls. It is essentially a crusade. We did some rolls for the units, and most of them were okay. However, this rearmost Assault Intercessor squad got crippling damage, so they can't advance and have -1 to the movement, as that happened to the Repulsor and the Impulsor, understandably, as they were completely cleaved in half. So there we go. Everyone else seemed to be okay. We'll start changing some of the mechanics for the out of action rolls as we go on, but I'll cover that when we get to it towards the end. But for the army today, we have Captain Petra Lachlan with his squad of soulbound Vanguard veterans. We have one squad of Devastators with multi-melters, and we have one squad of Devastators with plasma cannons, las cannon and heavy bolter. We have a squad of Blade Guard veterans returning, along with some Hellblasters, 2 squads of Assault Intercessors and 2 squads of normal Intercessors. With some mobility, we've added the Inceptors back in, and then we've got the squad of Assault Centurions who will be riding in the Repulsor this time, probably alongside a squad of Assault Intercessors. We have the Impulsor, the Redemptor, and we have the Predator Destructor. So that makes up the 2,000 points of the Ghosts of the Forge. So let's see what the Heralds, the Death Guard, are bringing with them today. So here's 2,000 points, or just under 2,000 points of Death Guard. They're led again by Captain Trips, along with Plague Mirth, the Plaguecaster, Calgius, the Tallyman, and Blithe Lung, the Foul Blightspawn. This pairing will go along with the melee squad of Plague Marines as it did last time. Nice little combo, and the Malignant Plaguecaster will go alongside one of the other squads, riding inside one of these 2 rhinos. And the old elite squad slots are 1 squad of Blightlord Terminators with a flail and a Plague Spewer, and then a squad of 6 Death Shroud Terminators to hopefully do the business and rip and tear their way through the lines of the Space Marines. We've got 2 bloke drones, one with a flesh mower, one with a Plague Spitters. We have 2 Plague Burst Crawlers, both with entropy cannons and mortars. And then we've got 2 squads of Poxwalkers as the shambling undead continue to rise and make their way through Kalos 9. And then we have 4 squads of Plague Marines, 3 that are sort of standard and shooty, and 1 that is mainly melee based. So with that, we'll go on to deployment and the mission. So the mission we're playing today is Desperate Assault. So the beachhead's been established, where the attackers deploy, and everywhere else is the defender's deployment zone. And you place 1 objective marker in the attacker's zone, and 3 which are placed across here. So 1 here, one there, and one there in the defender's deployment zone. Essentially, we'll get firestorms again, so there'll be orbital bombardment, planetary control, so they can control objectives even if they move off them. Reserve roles for anybody in strategic reserve. Shock tactics, so things like battle line and fly can appear 9 inches if they decide to come in from strategic reserves. And essentially, we get, if you control 2 or more objectives, you get 5 points in the command phase. At the end of the game, 15 points for each of the objectives the attacker controls within the defender's deployment zone, and if the defender holds the attacker's objective marker within their deployment zone, we get 25 points. So that's the mission. So let's head on to deployment. So after deployment, the Death Guard have put the Poxwalkers in harm's way to screen them from any potential issues from the ghosts. There's 2 squads of Plague Marines, plus the 2 Plague Burst Crawlers. The bloat drones, Captain Trips and the Deaths and the Blight Lords are all in the Teleportarium. The bloat drones are on their way from the other sector. For the ghosts, we have a whole deployment zone that goes all the way around. So we've set up one squad of Devastators right up in the top of the building with support from a squad of Assault Intercessors. The ones that are crippled are in the Repulsor. Around this side, another squad of Devastators and a squad of Hellblasters, just getting ready to pop up and hopefully rain down fire and death on the Death Guard. And then around the backfield, a squad of Intercessors, the Predator, the Repulsor and the Impulsor, another squad of Intercessors and a Redemptor ready to hold objectives and secure this battle grid. So to start off, we need to do the Firestorm battery. So the sort of orbital bombardment ordered by Captain Trips. So how many shots do we get? Okay. So we've placed the markers around. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's 6 over with that squad over there. So now we get to roll and see which ones get hit. So we'll start. So 1 gets hit, 6 gets hit, 6 gets hit again, 5 gets hit, 1 gets hit again, and 3. Okay. So starting off with 1 is D3 plus 3 mortal wounds for each time it's hit. So the first one, 6 mortal wounds, and then 4 mortal wounds. Objective marker 3, which is the Repulsor and Impulsor, we do 5 mortal wounds. For the Devastator, the Melter Devastator squad and the Assault Intercessor squad, 6 mortal wounds. And lastly, marker 6, which is the Intercessor squad, takes 2d3 plus 3. Okay, so it takes 4, 8 mortal wounds. With the brutal, lethal precision of the orbital bombardment, the squad of Intercessors is completely wiped out, and this Predator's brought down to just 1 wound remaining, dealing some wounds onto the Repulsor and Impulsor, and bringing this squad of Intercessors down to just 1 single lone hero of the Imperium. Whilst round on this flank, the Devastator squad and the Assault Intercessor squad are reduced down to just 3 members each. And with that, the Death Guard will press on into the city as we go to Death Guard, turn 1. At the end of the command and movement phase the Poxwalkers for this side move round with the aim of trying to charge around this corner into the assault intercessors. This Rhino advanced to bring the melee squad as far up the board as it possibly can, along with the Poxwalkers. This Rhino just moved as this squad of Plague Marines advanced. Standard movement, because this squad of Plague Marines only move standardly, so they can try and take some pot shots at the Devastating Marines up here. And the Plague Burst Crawlers just consolidated over the objective to secure it for later turns. So with that, we'll move on to the shooting, and we'll start with the Plague Marines firing up at the Devastator squad, bearing down on them. So there's 6 bolt guns in that squad and 1 plasma gun. So we're firing out to the Devastator squad, hitting on 3s. 2 lethal hits already. No one's in contagion range yet, so strength 4, toughness 4, so wounding on 4s. 7 wounds come through. There's no AP and behind cover anyway, so 3 up save. And we lose another Devastator, and 1 goes down to 1 wound. The plasma gun fires out, hits, wounds, and he makes a save. With limited shots from the Plague Burst Crawlers, they're going to put the 2 entropy cannons into the remaining Devastators. We're going to fire the mortar up and over into the Hellblasters. The 2 entropy cannons both hit. 1 wound, and it's saved. The number of shots from the mortar for 5 shots. So because they're out of line of sight, it's hitting on 4s. 2s to wound. So 4 wounds come through, -1, but back to minus nothing because of cover. Ooh. So we lose 3 Hellblasters. Do they get to fire at the Poxwalkers? That's the only thing they can see. 1 does. Sorry, 2 do, it's a 3 up, so 2 do. So I fire at the Poxwalkers. 3 hit. Certainly 2 wound. So the first one is dead. And the second one is also dead. So those remaining Hellblasters take a battle shock test, which they fail. We rinse and repeat with the next Plague Burst Crawler. 2 hits from an entropy cannon, 2 wounds, and both are saved. Number of shots from the Plague Burst Mortar for 6. I'm going to go into the Hellblaster squad again, try and get rid of them. And pretty good shooting there, Tex. 2s to wound. So 4 more 3 up saves. And that's the squad. Get to shoot? No. So at the end of the shooting phase for the Death Guard, the only thing we can do is we're going to try a charge with these Poxwalkers into the assault intercessors inside the building. So let's see if they make it in. On a 6, I think they possibly do. No, that left them half an inch short. So with that marks the end of the Death Guard turn, and brutal with the orbital bombardment, taking out 1 squad of intercessors and the Plague Burst Crawlers dealing with the Hellblasters. So how will the ghosts retaliate? What can they do to stem the tide, the inexorable advance of the Death Guard as we go on to Ghosts turn 1? So after the movement phase for the Ghost, the Devastator squad just popped up with a couple of weapons to take aim down into the kill zone, whilst the Heavy Bolter and other Plasma are looking at what they can make, see if they can make the Poxwalkers disappear. The heavily wounded Predator moved into the building so it can take aim at the kill box, as did the Repulsor, moving its way around to try and take aim on some of the target-rich environment that it sees. The Impulsor's moved into the building and it's going to sit there and wait, and hopefully the Blade Guard will disembark at some point, depending on how this Redemptor gets on. See if it can make short work of the Rhino it sees in front of it. Down this side, the two remaining Devastated Marines remain stationary, and the Assault Intercessors that remain head out to see if they can start chewing through some Poxwalkers. In terms of Oath of Moment target, I think we're going to concentrate on trying to pop one of these Rhinos. I think for now we'll make it this one here. So we'll start with the Beleaguered Predator, and we're going to split fire. We're going to put the autocannon into the Poxwalkers that are in front of it, and the last cannons into the Rhino. So we'll start with the last cannons. So because it's heavily wounded, hitting on 4s. Both hit. Wounding on 3s. 1 wound goes through. Oh, and it makes the save. Oh no. At this range, 6 shots coming in from the autocannon into the Poxwalkers. Wounding on 2s. So the first Poxwalker, second Poxwalker, and third Poxwalker. So that's 3 die. So moving on to the Repulsor and firing the defensive array off camera, we kill 3 more Poxwalkers, or 2 more Poxwalkers. There's 5 gone so far. So we're going to split fire again. The last cannon's going to go into the Rhino, as is the Hunter Killer missile, or Hunter Slayer, whichever it's called. And then the Gatling cannon's going to go into the Plague Marines behind that Rhino. So we'll start with the Heavy Onslaught Gatling cannon, hitting on 3s. If I can get that roll again, that'd be good, because that's devastating wounds. So wounding on 3s. So 6 come through, no AP, plus the 2 devastating wounds. And we lose another Plague Marine, so that's 2 Plague Marines gone, and 1 down to 1 wound. So the Hunter Slayer missile into the Rhino, hits, wounds, -3. It definitely fails the save, so D6 damage. 4 wounds taken off of the Rhino. So the twin last cannon misses, but Oath of Moment hits, wounds, again -3, and it makes the save. Moving around to this Devastator squad, we're going to split fire again. So these 2 here are going to fire into the Poxwalker squad. So we'll start with the Heavy Bolter, hitting on 4s. 2 hits. Wounding on 3s. 1 wound comes through, and that's 1 dead Poxwalker. We'll overcharge. It's D3 shots for the plasma cannon for 2 shots. 1 hits, 1 misses. It definitely wounds. And the Poxwalker dies. So that leaves just 1 Poxwalker remaining. These three can't see the Oath of the Moment target, so they're going to channel everything into the Plague Burst Crawler that is behind. So we'll start with an overcharged plasma cannon for 2 shots. 1 hits, it wounds, and it goes through. So that's 2 damage onto the Plague Burst Crawler. Now the last cannon. I will use the Signum ability to turn that into a 6. Does it wound? It does wound, but it's saved. So now the shots from the other Devastator squad are going to go into that far Plague Burst Crawler because that's the only one that's in range. They stood still, so hitting on 3s. And no wounds come through. So really the last thing to shoot will be the Redemptor as he puts everything into that squad of Plague Marines that's in the crater. Starting off with the Icarus rocket pod for 3 shots. Hitting on 3s, you can see them. So 2 miss, it doesn't wound. So the number of shots for the macro plasma incinerator, phenomenal. So D6 plus 1, and it does have blast, so that's 3 shots. Misses twice and doesn't wound. Well, I've seen better, has to be said. With that, we've gone to the charge phase. And there's 2 charges to make. We'll charge the Assault Intercessors into the squad of Poxwalkers and a very long bomb charge for the Redemptor into the Rhino. The Assault Intercessors are in with a 5. So can Redemptor make the charge? On a 4, no, he can't. So 12 attacks coming in from the Assault Intercessor squad. Strength 4, toughness 4, so 4s to wound but rerolling only 1s. No 1s. So 7, 5 up, feel no pains. And we don't make 1, so 7 cut down by those intercessors. So we strike back with the Poxwalkers. And we miss. So that marks the end of the Ghost turn 1. A little bit been done, but only to chaff really. The Poxwalkers are whittled down, but aren't quite gone yet. As we move on to the Death Guard turn 2 to see if they can further advance into the city and take control. At the end of the Death Guard movement phase, the Plague Marines have moved across whilst the Poxwalkers have disengaged from combat. The Plague Burst Crawlers have just shuffled over the objective. The Rhino with the Plague Caster in has moved up to start pressing into the this right hand flank for the Death Guard, while after depositing its innards, the Rhino move round to block and restrict the Redemptor, whilst the Plague Marine squad moved up towards the Impulsor. And then in the midboard, Captain Trips and his Death Shroud bodyguard deployed onto the sector. Over in the far corner, the Blightlord Terminators came in along with the Bloat Drone, and round this far side, the other Bloat Drone to put pressure on this objective here. After the Bloat Drone made short work of the Intercessor that was on this objective, we're going to move round to the Plague Burst Crawler, the injured one, on this left hand side is going to put everything it's going to put the mortars into the Devastator squad and the entropy cannons into the repulsor, and then we'll rinse and repeat with this plague burst crawler only on this squad of Devastating Marines over here, and see if we can get rid of some of the anti-tank from the ghosts. So 2 entropy cannons into the repulsor, both hit and no wounds. Number of shots for the plague burst crawler. For the mortar, whoa, it can see them because some got on top so they could take shots themselves, so hitting on 3s. Wounding on 2s. Okay. There is a bit of cover in the way, so 3 up saves. And we lose 2 of the Devastator squad. So the second plague burst crawler's entropy cannons, both hit. 1 wound comes through, which it fails to save, so it's D6 plus 1 damage for 3 damage. So number of shots with a mortar for 7. 2 lethals and 3s to wound. Ooh, just 3 wounds. Can we keep those melted Devastators alive? Yes, we can. So using the firing deck ability, the Plaguecaster peers out and focuses the Plague Wind into the Devastator squad. It's focused 1 for 5 shots. So that is 3 wounds. So -2. They're not in contagion range yet, so 5 up saves. And it's D3 damage. First one kills 1, and the second one would kill just that one. It doesn't spill over. So after a bolt of fire and plasma fire rain down on the impulsor, no wounds were caused, but we're going to have a go with the foul blight spawn and see if we can chip anything off the impulsor and expose the blade guard within. So D6 number of shots. Okay. And it doesn't wound. More importantly now, we're going to go through the charge phase. We didn't shoot anything really at the Predator because I want to see if I can make the charge with the Blight Lords to get onto the objective. Likewise, I'm going to charge the melee squad into the impulsor, and I will try a charge with Captain Trips to see if I can double up on this objective over here. Around here, I might try a charge with the bloke drone into the Redemptor again, just to start tying up objectives and be a nuisance. Around the front, by the gateway into the city, the Plague Marines will charge the Assault Intercessors and see if they can bring them down as well. So the melee Plague Marine squad, they're in with a 7. Captain Trips, he's not in with the 4, that's okay. The Plague Marine squad into the Assault Intercessors, they're in with a 4. The Blight Lords into the Predator are in with a 9. The bloke drone is not in with a 6. 3 attacks each, the Plague Marines strike out at the Assault Intercessors. Due to contagions, wounding on 3s. Spending a CPR armour of contempt, the 9 wounds get through, and that kills 2 of the 3 remaining. After the heavy plague weapons struck the impulsor, we did 5 wounds. So at -2 becoming -3 because of contagion, it needs to pass quite a few of them, which it doesn't do. So does the impulsor explode? No. So moving around to the Blightlord Terminators, can they bring down this Predator Destructor? The Flail of Corruption strikes and gets 2 lethals already. Strength 5 versus toughness 9 now because of contagion, still 5s to wound. So 1 more wound comes through from the Flail. So -1 becomes -2, so 5 up saves to keep this Predator alive. A heroic effort, but not quite. But it does explode. Deadly Demise D3, will it take a Terminator with it? No, it puts it down to 1 wound though. So another pretty successful turn for the Death Guard as they continue to apply pressure into the Ghost's lines. How will the Ghosts retaliate as they're now losing objectives within the city? So will Captain Petra Lachlan descend onto the battle grid and start putting right some wrongs? At the end of the Ghost's movement phase and command phase, Captain Lachlan has dropped in to the advanced area of the battle grid to try and put pressure on the Plague Marines and start putting pressure on the forward objectives outside the city. The Assault Centurions and the Assault Intercessors have both disembarked from the repulsor to start trying to clear away the Blightlord Terminators, some of the vehicles and heavy armour from the Death Guard. The Blade Guard just shuffled forward whilst the Inceptors descended from orbit and hopefully start clearing away the melee squad that's putting pressure right on the central objective. Around here, the Redemptor stayed still as he hasn't got much choice with the Rhino blocking his way. No doctrines have been declared just yet by Petra Lachlan, so we'll see how he wants to evaluate the battle grid first before he starts giving out orders for the doctrines to adopt to make the most of the scene unfolding before him. So with that, we'll go on to the shooting phase. We'll start with these 2 Devastator Marines firing into the Plague Burst Crawler. They stood still, so hitting on 3s. So 1 wound comes through, which it fails, so D6 damage for 3 damage. Before I forget, we did make this melee squad the Oath of Moment target. They do need dealing with. Then we head on to this Devastator squad, firing into this Plague Burst Crawler. So the number of shots from the plasma cannon for 2, which is overcharged, hitting on 3s. It wounds. And we fail the save. So that's another 3 wounds on the Plague Burst Crawler. Sorry, I meant 2 wounds. Does he blow up? No, he's fine. So now the last cannon, which hits, which definitely wounds, and fails the save again. So D6 plus 1. Won't kill it, hopefully do some damage. That's 5 wounds taken off the Plague Burst Crawler, leaving 3 remaining. So working our way to the Inceptor squad, everything's going to go into that melee squad in front of it. Looking for sustained hits 2. Re-roll for Oath of Moment. Okay, so no sustained hits this time. Strength 5, toughness 5, so falls to wound, but twin linked. And a relatively good job. Okay, so 4 wounds come through. -1. And 2 damage each, that kills 3. Having already fired the defensive array into the melee squad and managing to kill one of the Marines, we're going to go on to the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon and see if we can deal some more damage. So 12 shots, hitting on 3s. I'm re-rolling because of Oath of Moment. Okay. Strength 6, toughness 5, so wounding on 3s but looking for 6s ideally. Okay, so that was a 6, so we've killed 1, wounded another, and we've got 6 saves to make ordinarily. So 6 saves at no AP. So all that does is kill a further 2 Plague Marines. Blade Guard veterans aren't veterans without reason, so the Death Watch Blade Guard unleashes his grenade pack and throws it at the melee squad in front of him, inflicting 3 mortal wounds and killing the sergeant that was left, or the champion, sorry, that was left, and therefore just leaving the Tallyman and the Foul Blightspawn on their own. Coming all the way around to the side of the battle grid, the Redemptor unleashes his Macroplasma Incinerator. So the supercharge is D6 + 1 for 3 shots. Hitting on 3s. One wound comes through and it's failed. It does a total of 3 damage onto the bloat drone. Does the cannon overheat? No. So he fires with his Icarus rocket pod twice, hitting on 3s, wounding on a 2-up, and -1, and that goes through as well for a total of 2 damage. So 5 damage done on the bloat drone so far. We'll go, why not? Let's do some storm bolters. Hit twice, wound once, and that fails. So chipped away 6 wounds so far off the bloat drone. So we're splitting fire with the Assault Centurions. The Hurricane Bolters are going into the Blight Lords, and the Melters are going to go into the Rhino. We fired the Hurricane Bolters off camera and did 5 wounds, and the Blight Lords have just tickled 1, who was already down to a wound, so manages to kill 1 before the potential charge to try and claim the objective back. So the melter gun's going into the Rhino. Only 1 hit. Come on, boys. Does it wound? It does wound. At this range, it's -4, so doesn't get a save. So what's the damage? For 5. So it leaves it with 1 wound remaining. That draws the shooting phase to a close, and with that we'll head on to the charge phase, and there's several being declared. The Redemptor will go into the Rhino because it needs to clear a way for it to start putting pressure into the centre of the midboard. The Blade Guard will charge both the Tallyman and the Foul Blightspawn. The Assault Intercessors will charge the squad of Plague Marines, and the Assault Centurions will charge the Blight Lords. Spending a CP to overwatch, the Vile Blightspawn raises his Plague Spitter and fires down on the Blade Guard that are going to charge into him. So how many shots do we get? Oh no. Wounding on 2s. That's everything. So 6, 4 up invulnerable saves. Oh, we don't do too bad there, do we? So moving our way up the board, we'll start with the Assault Centurions, who are in with a 9. We'll then go on to the Assault Intercessors, heading into the Plague Marines, with a 4 just about. The Blade Guard Veterans are in with a 7. The Redemptor Dreadnought is in with a 4. And our Captain, Chapter Master of the Ghosts, is going to charge into the Plague Marines in the just outside the city walls. With a 6, he doesn't make it, so I will spend a CP. On a 3, that's even worse. So he's out in the wind, liable to a counter charge now. Let's move everyone else in and see how we go. So starting with the Assault Centurions, they strike out with their siege drills, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 3s, but twin linked. So 4 wounds come through. If they could fail these saves, please, that would be mightily handy. 1 does. That kills the Terminator. Moving across to the Blade Guard unit, we're going to split the attacks with 2 going into the Tallyman and 4 going into the Blightspawn. So we'll start with the 2 into the Tallyman with 4 attacks each. They're not the Oath of Moment target anymore because it was the squad, and that's now gone. So hitting on 3s. Strength 5, toughness 5, so force to wound. So 5 wounds come through, -2, so 5 up saves to keep the Tallyman alive. And he's very dead. So the rest of the attacks coming into the Foul Blightspawn. And force to wound. 6 wounds come through. Oh, do you know what? He's dead. Yeah, holding the flank right on the far side, the Redemptor Dreadnought raises its fist and tries to punch a hole through the rotten hull of the Rhino. So 5 attacks hitting on 3s. Wounding on 3s. That's pretty good. Pretty good. That's 4 5 up saves. Oh, and it makes 2 of them. It takes 6 wounds though. With no CP left to spend on anything, the Assault Intercessors strike out at the Plague Marines. A lot of hits came through, but the wound is where it counts with 5s to wound, so good luck, boys. 5 wounds come through, so 5 -1. And they kill 1 and injure another. So fighting back, the Foul Blightlord Terminator raises his Flail of Corruption and hits only once. Strength 5 and toughness greater than. It's 5s to wound. It does cause a wound. And it is failed. -1? No, it's passed. -2 because of contagion. And one of the Assault Centurions takes 2 wounds. The remaining 2 Terminators lash out with their bubotic blades. That's a bit better, and caused 2 lethal hits already. Again, 5s to wound. Oh, that's not bad at all. So 6 at -2 becomes -3 because of contagion. So 5s to save. And that takes down that one on 2 wounds and causes wounds to another. The Rhino fought back, predictably causing no wounds to the Redemptor. But over here, the Plague Marines reorganise and strike back against the Assault Intercessors. The Champion raises his heavy plague weapon, his Power Fist, and strikes out. Causes 1 lethal hit and hits the other time. Strength 8, toughness 3 now because of contagion, so 2s to wound. So 2 wounds come through at -2, becoming -3, and 1 of the Assault Intercessors falls, causing just the 2 wounds with the plague knives, -1 because of contagion, and it brings down another Assault Intercessor. So that marks the end of the Ghost's turn 2, and while they've successfully reclaimed the central objective and they still hold this right hand flank objective, there's still a lot of armour, a lot of Death Guard still about. Captain Petrolochlin, failing his charge, is left in the wind somewhat. So let's see as we go to turn 3 what the Death Guard do to continue to harry and put pressure on the lines of the Ghosts. At the end of the Death Guard movement phase, the bloke drone, the Flesh Mower, has moved its way up to the Devastators. The Plague Caster squad has disembarked from the Rhino, and the Rhino has moved its way up as far as it can, knowing it's on its last legs, to try and secure or help secure that objective for later turns. The Plague Caster squad's moved through into the building to take sight on the Inceptors. Captain Trips and his squad of able bodyguards has moved through the building and started to close down on the Blade Guard veterans. Whilst over this side, the Plague Spitter drone has moved forward and try and take the objective. And around this side, the Plague Marines have moved forward to try and take on Petrolochlin's squad. Whilst there's been a slight shuffle by the Plague Burst crawlers to take line of sight of the repulsor, and the Poxwalkers have moved back just to block and be a nuisance should anything go wrong over this left hand flank. So starting with the shooting phase, we'll start with this forward Plague Burst crawler firing into the repulsor and firing the mortars into the Blade Guard veterans. It's down to 3 wounds remaining, so it'll be -1 to hit to the repulsor. But it does get a lethal hit anyway. So do we manage to save? No, we don't. So D6 plus 1 damage. Only 8 wounds to get through, so it won't kill it, but it does put 4 more wounds on it. The number of shots with the mortar. Ooh, very nice. So hitting on 4s because of line of sight. Wounding on 2s. So 2 wounds, 3 wounds come through on the Blade Guard veterans. -1 but +1 for cover. And they're all fine. Rinse and repeat with the second Plague Burst crawler, only this one isn't bracketed. So hitting on 3s with the entropy cannons. And again, 1 lethal. So how do we get on? Ooh. Okay. So number of wounds caused by the entropy cannon. That's 3 plus 1 is just enough. Let's see if it explodes. Does the repulsor explode? Yeah! So, D6 wounds to the Plague Marines in front of it. Ooh, killing 3 of them straight away. D6 wounds to the Assault Centurion squad. Killing one of the Centurions and putting one down to 2 wounds. D6 wounds on the Blight Lord Terminators. Killing another one and putting one down to 2 wounds remaining. The Inceptor squad kills one outright. What an explosion. Through the explosion, the Malignant Plaguecaster draws from the warp once more and fires into the Inceptor squad. There's no other way than to go hazardous, so focus Witchfire, D6 plus 3 shots for 8. Strength 6, toughness 5 now because of contagion, so 3's to wound. So 5 wounds come through, -2 becomes -3 because of contagion. And we save 2, but 3 go through. This could be enough to kill the squad. The first D3 and the second D3 kills that, so leaving 1 Inceptor remaining. As the Death Shroud come through the wall, Captain Trips orders them to take aim with the Plague Spurt gauntlets at the Blade Guard in front of them. So 5 D6, because one's behind the wall and can't really see. Not bad. So anti-infantry 4 up. Here we go. 10 wounds come through at -1 because of contagion. Okay, kills that one who had 1 wound remaining and puts a wound onto another. Splitting the fire, the Plague Marines will take aim at that last remaining Assault Intercessor, then with the plasma gun and everything else, all the bolters will go into the Soulbound. The plasma gun hits once, does a wound. This range is now -3, so we're not going to overcharge it. Well, we will overcharge it actually. And he fails to save. That would kill the Intercessor, but does it also kill? No. There's Veterans of the Long War for a reason. Bolters ring out to the Soulbound in front of them and do 3 lethal hits. Wounding on 3s because of contagion. So 5 wounds come through. So 5 wounds at -1. And that kills one of the Soulbound. So with the shooting phase done, we'll move on to charges, and there's a few to go across the board here. So both the bloke drones will go in, 1 to the Devastator squad and 1 to the Redemptor. The squad of Plague Marines over here will charge the Soulbound. Captain Trips and his squad of Death Shroud will charge the Blade Guard, and the Plaguecaster and his squad will charge the remaining Inceptor, sorry. So let's see how they get on. Mower is in with a 5. The other bloke drone over the other side is in with a 6. The Plaguecaster squad is in with a 7. Captain Trips and his squad are definitely in with a 9. And the other Plague Marine squad are in with a 7 as well. So charges made across the board. We'll move them in and come back for the fight phase. During the fight phase so far, the Fleshmower made short work of the Devastators, and the Plaguecaster squad tore down the Inceptor. So we move round as Captain Trips raises his Man Reaper scythe and strikes out against the Blade Guard veterans. We're going to go for the strike profile, and so 5 attacks hitting on 2s. No lethals this time, but wounding on 2s. So 3 wounds come through, would be -2, becoming -3 with contagion, but we have a 4-up invulnerable save, and we've opted to re-roll 1s to save. So he tears down 3 on his own. The remainder of the Death Shroud strike out with the same strike attack, hitting on 2s. But the Lord of Contagion gives them reroll all hits, so we're going to go fishing. Oh dear, that was a bad idea. So strength 8, toughness 3 now, so 2s to wound. It's going to be uphill, but 14 wounds on the 4-up invulnerable save come through, 2 damage a time. That's 1 dead, that's 2 dead, that would have been 3 dead, that would have been 4 dead. So the squad is completely wiped. So over with Captain Petrolochlin, the Plague Marines strike out with their knives and hit on 3s. Wounding on 3s. Spending a CP on Armour of Contempt, 7 saves to make. And we lose another soulbound. Starting the fight back, the Assault Centurion fires the siege drills up once more and ploughs into the Blightlord Terminators and hits on 3s. Hits twice, that is all he might need. 3s to wound, but twin linked. So 2 wounds go through on the invulnerable save of the Blightlords. And he makes 1 and kills 1. So the flail of corruption is swung around the Blightlord Terminator's head once more, and he strikes out and hits on 3s. He wounds twice, so 2 4-up saves for the Assault Centurion or death. Oh, he just makes it. Enraged at the loss of another soulbound, the Captain Petrolochlin raises his Thunderhammer and with his rights of battle gives his unit the Lance ability, giving them +1 to their wound roll. So he strikes out with his Thunderhammer and hits on 3s. Strength 8 versus toughness 5, so 3s to wound. 1 wound comes through. It's failed and it kills a Plague Marine. So now the Vanguard, the Soulbound, strike out with their relic weapons, hitting on 3s. So strength 5, toughness 5, so we're running on 4s, but with Lance, running on 3s. I have seen so much better. So 2 wounds come through at -1. We make 1 and fail 1, so we just tickle one of the Plague Marines. In the centre here, the Plague Marines strike out. And he hits twice. And he wounds once. And he fails to save, smushing one of the Assault Intercessors. The other 2 remaining Plague Marines strike out, cause 1 lethal hit. They wound on 3s. 4 wounds come through and kills another Plague Marine. There's just Assault Intercessor. There's just 1 remaining. So there's 1 hiding away in there who also strikes out. Also wounds twice, but we're okay. We're good. So the Assault Intercessor strikes back, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 5s. Nothing caused. That marks the end of the Death Guard turn 3, and what a strike back. Retaking the centre objective, battening down the hatches as Captain Trips secures the area alongside his Plague Marines. The Plague Burst Crawlers continue to advance into the city. What, if anything, can the Ghosts do as they go on to the Ghosts turn 3? With resources still on the ground, Captain Petra Lachlan orders down the Vox to enter the tactical doctrine. So fall back, shoot and charge. So Lachlan and his squad of Soulbound fall out of combat and head towards the Poxwalkers. Devastator Marines move down to get in range of the wounded Plague Burst Crawler. Around this flank, the Assault Centurion falls back, ready to shoot and recharge. And over here, the Redemptor falls back and prepares to do the same. And the Plague Burst Crawler is the Oath of Moment target in an effort to try and get rid of it from that objective. Starting with the Assault Centurion, everything's going to go into the Blight Lord Terminator to try and get rid of it. So 6 shots come in from the Centurion bolters. So 2 hits come through. I mean, he's hardly that far away, is he? 5's to wound, but twin linked. And twin linked. So 2 wounds come through. So two up saves, which he makes. Now, the twin melter gun comes through. Hits. A wound on a 3. It's twin linked. Gets a 6. So 4 up invulnerable save or death for the Blight Lord. And it's death for the Blight Lord. So the Redemptor levels his Macroplasma Incinerator at the bloke drone. How many shots do we get? Overcharges, holds down the trigger for 4 shots. Hitting on 3s. They all hit. Wounding on 4, strength 9, toughness 9. 3 wounds come through. -4, so on the demon save. Does it explode? No. So far, so good for the Ghosts. So 4 multi-melter shots going into the Plague Burst Crawler. It's an Oath of Moment target, but they did move, so hitting on 4s. Re-rolling for Oath of Moment. So all 4 hit. Now it's to wound. Ooh. Come on now. Okay, spending a CP. Come on. Oh. Okay, 5 up demon save. Which it makes anyway. Oh, God. Okay. The Assault Intercessor unclips his rack of grenades, throws them at the Plague Marine squad. And inflicts 3 mortal wounds, killing 2 because one's on a wound left. So that being the end of the shooting phase, we go on to the charge phase. And Captain Lachlan and his squad will charge the Poxwalkers. The Assault Intercessor will bravely charge into the Plague Marine squad. The Redemptor will charge into the Rhino, and the Assault Centurion will charge into this Rhino, try and finish it off. The Assault Centurion is in with a 7, Redemptor is in with a 9. The Assault Intercessor is in with an 11. Must be angry. And Captain Lachlan is in with a 10. We'll move them in. We'll come back for the fight phase. Having made short work of the Poxwalkers, Lachlan's squad of Soulbound then tag and try and tie up the Plagueburst Crawler whilst trying to secure and securing this objective. So we move around now to the Assault Centurion, who raises his siege drills and strikes out at the Rhino in front of him, hitting on 3 6s, a sustained 2. So nothing there. Strength 10. Just check that's a wound, but I think it is. So -2 for it to stay alive. Oh, it's twin linked. That's 2 wounds. So 2 5-up saves to stay alive. It makes neither. Does it explode? No. The siege drills just plough through it, that rotten hull, and destroy the Rhino, securing this objective once more. So around the far side, the Redemptor once more strikes out and tries to hit the Rhino, which it does nearly all the times. 3's to wound. 2 wounds come through, and it fails both of them. Does that explode? No. So can the hero Assault Intercessor tear down 2 Plague Marines in front of him? Let's find out. No. No, he really can't. So will he get torn down in return? The Plague Champion strikes out with his Power Fist and hits twice, wounds twice, and tears down the Assault Intercessor. So that marks the end of the Ghost turn. Relatively successful in some respects. We've secured the outer objective. We've secured either flank, but the central objective is still in control of Captain Trips. And these Plague Marines, well, can they make their way back towards this objective, or will they press on and try and put pressure on the Redemptor as we go into Death Guard turn 4? At the end of the Ghost movement phase, the bloke drone comes around and try and put pressure on the Assault Centurion. This squad of Plague Marines moves across with the Plague Caster, as does this squad of Plague Marines for later turns to try and put pressure onto this objective on this flank for the Death Guard. Over the other side, Captain Trips, knowing that he's got sticky objectives, he can then move across and start putting pressure onto the Redemptor, who's reclaimed that objective after destroying both the bloke drone and the Rhino. The Plagueburst Crawler has got a line of sight, can thread the needle through to the Redemptor. And around here, the Plagueburst Crawler has stayed in combat with Captain Petra Lachlan. So the shooting phase has been nice and short. We're going to go for the Plagueburst Crawler into the Redemptor Dreadnought with its mortar firing up and over, try and take out the Assault Centurion if they can. So the 2 entropy cannons into the Redemptor. 1 hits, 1 misses, and fails to wound. So a number of shots for the mortar for 8. Hitting on 4s, so he's out of line of sight and he's bracketed anyway. And 3s to wound. So 4 wounds come through. I spent a CP on Armour of Contempt, so that'd be 4 2-up saves. And he takes, oh no, it's 2 damage a pop, and he's failed and I don't have any more CP. That kills the Assault Centurion. This Plague Burst Crawler will fire the 2 entropy cannons into the Vanguard Vets, into the Soulbound. We'll fire the mortar up and over at the Devastator Squad. So the 2 entropy cannons both miss because of -1 to hit in combat. So the number of shots for the mortar, oh, it's the big 9. Again, hitting on 4s because of being in combat. 2s to wound. So 3 wounds come through. There's no cover this time. And that's both of them gone. With the shooting phase over and now no targets left to charge for this side, over here Captain Trips will make a charge into the Redemptor. And he certainly does, and makes it on an 11. As they surround the honoured brother, Captain Trips raises his Man Reaper and brings it down on the armoured sarcophagus of the Redemptor Dreadnought. So hitting on 2s, looking for lethal hits. And he misses 3 times. I can't imagine the Redemptor dodges and weaves, to be fair. 5s to wound. No wounds come through. So he instructs his Death Shroud bodyguard to swing with their strike of their Man Reapers and see if they can penetrate the sarcophagus. Now we're hitting on 2s and 6s are lethal, but we get to re-roll all the hits with the Lord of Contagion leading them, so I think we're going to have to go fishing. Okay, re-rolling, looking for those 6s. And we get a few more. So now it's 5s to wound. Oh, that's pretty good. 11 wounds come through. He has 11 wounds left. It's -2, so it's 4-up saves. It does reduce all damage by 1. And so far the Redemptor takes 1, 2, 3, 4 more wounds, bringing him down to 7 remaining. He fires up his Redemptor Fist and strikes back at the Death Shroud. And he hits all but once. Wounding on, would be wounding on 2s, but wounding on 3s because of the bodyguard rule for the Death Shroud. And it's made a difference. So 2 wounds come through onto the 4-up invulnerable save. And it fails both, he kills 2 in return. After the Soulbound struck out at the Plague Burst Crawler, they managed to do 3 wounds to it, which it failed. So now, because the captain gave them the Lance ability, so they could get an extra pip on their wounds. Now Captain Petrolochlin raises his Thunderhammer and strikes the Plague Burst Crawler. And he hits all but once. Unfortunately, 6s mean nothing at all. His strength 9, so it would be 5s to wound, but it's back down to 4s because of the Lance ability. 2 wounds come through. It won't kill the Plague Burst Crawler. Can we seriously bracket it? We lose 2 wounds, so it's down to 4 wounds remaining. So at the end of the Death Guard turn, they've made their way over to and started putting pressure on the objective over here. Let's see how the Redemptor gets on in its turn as we go on to the Ghosts, turn 4, with not a lot of resources left. So we'll have to see what, if anything, they can do. With no movement to speak of and no shooting. Oh, we can shoot into combat here. Let's see if we can pick up any wounds before we move on to the fight phase. So managing to inflict just a couple of wounds with all the weapons that we could fire into combat. Now we enter the fight phase, and defenders fight first. So we're going with the Death Shroud. See if we can take out the Redemptor. Again, fishing for sixes. And get a few more. Winning on fives. Oh dear. So again, 11 more 4-up saves to make. If 7, need to make a lot of them. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wounds come through. That's all he had left. Does he explode? Yes, he does. So he does D3 mortal wounds to that unit for 2 mortal wounds. So he kills that one and puts 1 down to 2 wounds remaining. As the sarcophagus explodes, maybe we'll be able to recover it, but I'm not certain. After the Plagueburst Crawler did no wounds, the Soulbound struck back and also did no wounds. So let's see if Captain Petrolochlin can get some semblance of pride and take down this Plagueburst Crawler. So he hits all of the times. He wounds once. Which is saved. And that would mark the end of the ghost turn. And at this point, Captain Petrolochlin recognises the fact that this battle grid has also now been lost to the Death Guard as they take their inexorable advance slow and rottingly and ruinously through the city. So Lochlin and his Soulbound vacate the battle grid. They'll regroup and rework their way back, analyse where the Death Guard are going, reinforce, rearm, resupply, and try and take the battle to Captain Trips once more. So that marks the end of part 2 of the Gates of Sorrow. Another brutal conflict where the Death Guard have come out on top once more. Maybe the true hero of the Death Guard, maybe the leader, is this lone Poxwalker who's held on to that objective all by himself. But let's see as we move on to part 3 of the Gates of Sorrow, as the Death Guard make their way further into the city and hone in on where the Gates force field is located and try and take it down so they can enter into the choir from the outer sanctuary. So I hope you enjoyed the story, and I hope to see you in part 3.